Hi, this is Jan Hibbard from Log Cabin Leather, and I'm here in the basement of my log cabin home. And tonight I want to demonstrate to you how I carve my or stamp my designs onto my belts. So that's what I'm hoping to show you tonight. Before I get into that, though, I'm going to talk to you show you a couple things in general about belt making. So I'm kind of taking you through the whole process here of what goes on. Um, what I'm seeing from my camera is very, very small here, so I apologize if the picture isn't all that clear. I'm hoping you're seeing my head because I can't even see the camera very good because it's actually behind me. So now, first of all, these are a couple tools you may not be familiar. This one you're probably familiar with, or have seen before. This one you may not be. This is a rotary cutter. So the first thing I need to do on these big, huge hides, like a belt leather especially, a belt leather hide is at least 60 inches long and almost as wide. So it is huge. The table that I do my cutting on is a dining room table. It's 48 inches wide, probably long, and maybe 36 inches wide. So the hide is much bigger than the table. So the hardest part is cutting a straight edge along one edge of the hide. Um, Especially because, again, so I use this. I use a steel ruler. And I literally get on top of the table and hold the ruler down with my leg while I'm trying to cut so I can get enough down pressure to cut. Because it's very difficult to cut through leather that is as thick as, this piece is here. So that's the first and probably the hardest part because it's hard to get that line straight for the whole length through, especially when the ruler is not, that length. The next thing is using this. Now this is a belt stripper. This I can turn, and it will adjust how the distance between here. There's a blade right here, and so this is the distance it's going to cut. So this would be for an 1 3/4 belt right now, and I do tighten this so it does not move or slide while I'm using it. So I don't want to move it right now. Now an 1 3/4 belt is going to be a tiny bit narrower, as all belts are, than an 1 3/4, and that's because the buckle width is going to be exactly an 1 3/4, and if the belt is that wide, it is going to rub and it's going to wear, which is why. So they're slightly bit narrower than that. So now I have this tool, and again, if you have a nice firm edge on this, and this is a new blade I put in here, it should be adjusted about the thickness of the leather here. So this could go a little bit tighter. That sort of holds it smoothly. And basically, turning my knocking my microphone over here. I'm not sure if you've seen that. And so I pull this through. So I've actually made it a little too tight. And see, it's cutting an even strip. I have to make sure I'm keeping the leather tight against this edge, which also can be hard. So when I'm cutting a full hide, again, I'm on the table holding it down so I can hold this way, and this isn't going to slide, so that it's easier to keep this firm. Like, see, now I have to hold it against my body. It's harder because I don't have anything to hold it against. Not that this is a strip for anything. This is just a scrap. But again, that's how you cut the belts. So they're all stripped by hand, one at a time, like that. Um, and again, I make belts in all widths for people of all sizes. So once it's cut, there are some other things that you need to do. Let me just get these tools out of my way. You do things like you bevel the edges, which I'm not going to demonstrate that now. This is called a beveler, and it's run along the edge here, and it peels off an edge on the piece, and that rounds off the edges. That's already done to this belt. Really what I'm here tonight is to demonstrate how I put the designs on. The next thing I've done after that, and that's done on tops and bottoms, it does not have to be done for me to put the designs on. The next thing I do have to use is something called a stitching groover, is really what this is. What it's really designed to do, it does have a little blade in here, and it cuts a line, which if you were stitching like the soles on a shoe, so that the stitching wouldn't actually rub on the ground, so it would be recessed, I guess, so that you wouldn't step on it, and so it wouldn't wear. In this case, I'm using it for a design just to make a line along the edge. So basically, we've already done it to this. It's held along the edge here, and it's run, and it cuts the line. This one is actually set to a different width than what I have on here, which is why I'm not going to demonstrate that on this one. I demonstrated on my piece here, though. And I'm hoping you can see that from... And it makes the line. So on some of my plain belts, I do that. I make just the lines like that, and I think it actually makes the belt look quite dressy. Now those, of course, are still not rounded off. The edges have to be rounded both sides. The top edge and the bottom edge will be rounded off, so you won't have the square edge. You'll have a nice rounded edge. And again, I'm not sure how well that showed up. So now as far as designs, I make geometric designs. So see, that line is going to help me line up some of the tools as I'm making the design. I'm also going to scribe a line down the center of the piece. And as you can see, these are some samples of different belts that I've made in the past. And they start with a line scribed down the middle. If I'm doing a really good job, you don't see that line so much. It should be a little lighter, to be quite honest. And then, again, color is added. So you can do any kind of design you want. Most of my designs are geometric, so I'm using... This is called wing dividers. It's a measuring tool, and once you set it, I can measure that same amount. Right now I'm going to scribe a line along the center because most of my designs, as you can see from these, kind of build off that center. So that's what I'm trying to do. Now in some cases, after I do that, I can't get this to stay on the table. After I do that, I might, if I was going to repeat this design, I would measure how far it is and make a mark at the beginning of the barbed wire here, the beginning of the barbed wire here, and then I could just go down and mark that through the whole belt, and then I could just go along and stamp that. That on this design isn't going to make a big difference, but on some designs, it's going to help me position where the next thing goes. So in this case, it might be the center in here, because that's where these lines go from. So I'm going to make a dot from there, and that's going to show where these lines go from, which is going to measure how far those are apart. So it's going to touch this one. So that's how, and I'm not sure if you can see that oh well on the camera. That's how I would do it on this one. I measure from here to here, and then I would do that down the middle. Now I have a different width belt here. So this is set now for the center of this. So again, I lightly scribe along, and see, I'm going to try to leave this set of wing dividers. Sometimes I use more than one pair, so that I can make this line light. And, so if it disappears, I can see it again. Now again, you're also going to wet the leather, which sometimes the line is going to show up more once you wet it. So if it doesn't show up, then I will do it again. But again, I don't want to do it too deep because that will... Again, so this is just water. Anything you do with leather, you use water. Because that's how you're molding, shaping, forming it. So see, now if I do that, I want to go very lightly down the center. And again, you can see on this piece, I haven't even cut the edges of this to round it for a belt or anything. It is just a raw piece. A lot of times when I'm heading to craft shows, I will demonstrate. So I'll just, finish them to this stage, or again, get the lines on the side because it's easier to do on a larger, flatter surface like I have here before I go to the show, or even the line down the center, and then go from there. So the next thing is I start with the design. It can be anything. And basically, it is a random thing for the most part. I start with the design. I pick up a tool. So now some of these tools are very warped because they're old and cheap. Like you can see this one. I don't know if the warp in that handle shows. These are the tools. Again, I'm not sure. These are the tools that are used, and they're basically shapes. These are the ones I use on almost everything. So those are a lot of times the center of my design. I think I'm going to go with something like this today. I'm not going to start quite on the edge. Again, the edges will be turned over, and I'm not sure what exactly my design is going to look like. So again, they're geometric, so I'm usually starting at the center of the design. What happens is once I stamp something, my design usually builds from there. So if that's on the center, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to build things that go from that line. Now, a lot of times I will turn the piece around to make sure. Sometimes it's easier to see if you are lined up, because I want these to be, the impressions at the end here to be about the same, you know. I want these to line up here as well, so you're trying to make sure of that. You know, I keep going like this, and I just randomly stamp designs. Again, I don't like this setup anymore because the camera is so little that I can't barely even see it. So I hope that you can see this, because I can't tell if you can or not. Not liking this so much, actually. These are always some of my favorite. Now that one's too big, so see, I just pick up tools and I kind of randomly try them, see what I like. I like that in there, but I'm not sure if it's gonna be quite right for my design. And then again, see, sometimes it's easier to turn it. So this is where, once I have a pattern established, and I don't yet, because again, I don't know where it's going to repeat, I can stamp the same thing over and over again, and it makes the pattern repeat. So I wouldn't keep turning this around to do this, because this design is probably not going to affect, you know, where I put the next stamp, so that I can do that after, or I can do one side and do it all the way down the one side and then turn the belt around and go all the way back the other side, if that makes any sense. Now I could use my big one in here. Sometimes I like the designs it makes, sometimes I don't. Of course, it's not all about what I like. It's what other people like, so see, I do like that. So now I'm going to repeat, if I'm going to repeat this again, then for right now, I would stamp this again. My dinner is ready. And I'm going to kind of measure out from these, because I can't quite, because I don't. Alright, so then this is going to go this way above this to the center of that. So that's going to go about like that, I'm going to say. And about like that. So that's about perfect, actually. Alright, so then I stamp that, then I can stamp these other ones, and then again, the design is going along from there. And again, because this is just, again, normally I would turn this around to come back along the other side and do this. I can sometimes get the line, you know, lined up a little bit more accurately, or it's easy for me to hold. You do use a special kind of hammer. My timer is going off on my dinner, so I may be cutting this shorter in a minute. Again, that's going to go here. Now, see, that is, once I measure this, whether I have this in here right now is not going to matter to create the design. So what I would do next is, yes, I would take a measurement from here at the very beginning of this tool to the very beginning of the next tool. And this tool is broken, so unfortunately it is not going to cooperate with me exactly how I want it. I do have a timer going off upstairs, so I'm going to have to add this in a minute. So this is how far it is. So now if I do that, I can keep stamping that same design down. So now I know exactly where that one goes. So now I can go down the belt, and that's exactly where I'm going to start it. So I'm going to go And again, I'm not sure, I'm not even sure if this shows on the camera. I'm going to stamp it again here. And then I can go do the design much faster because now I can just go back and do this. My timer, I guess it is not going to go off, so I'm going to have to go tend to that. I can keep doing that all the way down the belt, then I turn it around, do the other side. So that's how I create the pattern. Once a pattern is created, then I need to go and then the color is added. So the color is actually added a lot of times Sharpie marker on things. It is done by hand, added into the little spaces. If I want to have a dye resist, I have to paint, which like this one, we can see the lighter spaces. I have to paint something on those sections as well as the light colors and so forth, so it will become permanent. And unfortunately, I am going to have to go for right now because I do have a timer going off upstairs, and I thought it would shut off and not continue, but it will not. So I'm going to have to go tend to that. Again, I'd love to know your thoughts on other things you'd like for me to demonstrate. This month I'm going to focus on a little bit more on the belts and some carvings of loons and things that I'll be working on for some of my shows that are coming up. I really don't have any shows scheduled at this point until July right now, but I will be having some online sales and so forth. If you want to find out about my events that are going on, the best way to do that is to become a VIP Insider, to join my email, and then you will get links to all the things that are happening, and, you know, these videos will be sent to your inbox and so forth if you miss the lives here on my Facebook page. Again, this workshop Wednesday is every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. I also have a Spotlight Saturday every Saturday at 5 p.m., as well as other live videos and so forth during the week. That's going to wrap it up for now. Once again, this is Jan Hibbard, Log Cabin Leather by Jan. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Bye. I'm coming.